We are embarrassed to live freely, to talk in front of people, to exist. And yes, while we can try to find the reason as to why we do these things, the only thing it does is keep us stuck. All we do is keep blaming the root cause. We need to find the solution. And that's the difference between Adlerian psychology and Freud's way of thinking. Instead of blaming the past, blame nothing but the actions you take to form the person you become. In the early 20th century, psychology was dominated by one man, Sigmund Freud of Austria. His theories focused on the unconscious mind, childhood trauma, and the influence of the past. In a nutshell, Freud believed our lives were dictated by the actions of the past and the subject of repression. Contrastingly, Alfred Adler, his contemporary, had a strikingly different view. Adler believed our lives are shaped by the goals we pursue in the present, whether we're aware of them or not. It's not just about the actions we take, but the underlying purpose driving those actions that shapes the person we become. Freud's view says you are shaped by what happened to you. Adler's view says you are shaped by what you choose to do next. In the modern day, many carry Freud's ideas like facts, blaming their present actions on memories of the past. But I believe this is a dangerous mindset to have. You see, we could have the humane drive to want to do better, achieve our life goals, accomplish the undone. But Freud's way of thinking makes it so much easier to give up and think that we're not qualified enough to do the big things in life, all because of what's happened to us in the past. And let's face it is much easier to undermine yourself and point your fingers at the world rather than take responsibility for one's own growth. Because responsibility means that accepting the future is in your hands, not the past or the world around you. This brings us to the central idea of the book this documentary is based on, The Courage to be Disliked by Fumitake Koga and Ichiro Kishimi. This isn't any self-help book though, with all that corny alpha male rhetoric, 48 Laws of Power. The Courage to be Disliked is an intense, argumentative dialogue between a frustrated young man and a seasoned philosopher, debating the philosopher's way of thinking into being truly happy with yourself and your life. In this documentary, I will be delving into the 4 main takeaways of this life-changing book, in hopes of inspiring the youth of our modern world to make their life not only one that's worth living, but one that they can truly enjoy. Your life is not something that somebody gives you, but something you can choose yourself, and only you can decide how you live. Alfred Adler once said, "No experience is in itself a cause of our success or failure." First lesson, deny trauma. More specifically, deny the existence of trauma affecting your future altogether. Yes, experiences like abuse can cater greatly to the creation of someone's personality, but it shouldn't be relied on as the reason for someone's shortcomings or life path. This isn't to say that Adler believed that trauma wasn't real. Trauma is real, and it is painful, but the amount of power we give it should be limited. Trauma isn't your final story, and it shouldn't be the reason as to why you cannot move forward with your life or accept responsibility. This is where the difference between causality and teleology comes in, 2 key words when explaining this concept. In essence, this belief called causality inserts that who you are today is because of what happened to you in the past. You're angry because of how you were raised. You're anxious because someone made you feel small. You're afraid because something scarred you. And look, that's comforting. It's comforting to believe that we're just reacting to what's already been done to us, that we're not responsible for how broken we feel. But Adlerian psychology argues, what if it's not about what happened to you, but where you're trying to go? The Courage to be Disliked constantly raises the idea that humans act based on a goal that they've set for themselves. This is what Adler called teleology. The word comes from the Greek telos, meaning end or goal. In simple terms, you act based on the outcome you're looking for, whether you're aware of it or not. Let me break it down. You're not anxious because of your past. You're anxious because you want to avoid something in the future, maybe embarrassment, maybe even rejection. The fear isn't caused by your trauma. It's driven by your current goal. Could be safety, control, attention, sometimes even revenge. Now, let's look at a more familiar example to further understand how teleology can work in everyday scenarios. Let's say a teacher is talking to their student, and the teacher is now yelling at them. When you look at the situation, you may think, oh, the student made a mistake. Most people assume there must be a reason as to why the teacher was angry. Something caused his anger. However, according to Adlerian teleology, this would be denied. The fact that the teacher is angry and yelling at the student is not because they made a mistake, but because the teacher is acting within a purpose, maybe to show their superiority, possibly even to control the student.
According to The Courage to be Disliked, the teacher's anger was actually fabricated and used as a means to yell at the student rather than teach them the proper way to perform in class. Because if you think about it, what good does this anger actually do? It does not benefit the student or the teacher in the long term. Whereas a good teacher wouldn't see anger as an option, knowing that it can negatively affect their relationships with students and hinder learning, and instead focus on constructive feedback and patience.
So, how does knowing this free you? You're probably thinking, well, I function properly and I'm not afraid to stand up to bullies. However, Adlerian teleology isn't always about the extreme cases. In fact, it's mostly in the small cases you don't even think twice about. Didn't raise your hand in class to voice your opinion, didn't post that TikTok or Instagram post, maybe skipping or turning down opportunities. We are all always acting within a goal, unknowingly or not. It can be the goal of avoiding embarrassment, judgment, even shame. But this is limiting your personal growth. And sure, you can go ahead and comfort yourself whilst blaming it on your trauma. Or you can decide to follow through with what you want to do. There is no kindness without judgment. There is no liberty without shame. Your life is not one well lived if you've never put yourself out there. Lesson 2. All problems are interpersonal relationship problems. The cause of all problems is the feeling of inferiority, and this feeling of inferiority is created within our relationships with others. Adler believed that all of our problems are interpersonal relationship problems, but what exactly does this mean? What Adler is trying to claim here is that all of our problems are because of how we let the actions of other people affect us. But what about anxiety, depression? These things must be deep, internal, personal problems, no? Not exactly. Let's say person A suffers with severe anxiety and has to present a slideshow in front of their peers. You would assume that because person A has anxiety, that they cannot present in front of their class. But this is where Adler would assert the claim that person A actually can present in front of their peers, they're just afraid of embarrassment and how they are perceived by other people. Therefore, their goal is to avoid a greater fear, the fear of being disliked, the fear of being perceived in a way that they are not comfortable with. It is not their anxiety that's holding them back, but the fact that they don't have the courage to be disliked. So, how do we stop caring? How do we build this courage to be authentically us? Well, Alfred Adler believed that true freedom came hand in hand with being disliked, and that it was the price of living a truthful life. It is said in The Courage to be Disliked, if you are not disliked by anyone, you are not living honestly. And it is a hard pill to swallow, but one that is necessary in order to live a life that is sincere to your character, especially one that will not leave you unhappy. When you live authentically, not everyone will agree with your choices or actions. You might even face rejection or criticism. You may be ostracized within your friend groups. However, it is crucial to realize that this is what the courage to be disliked actually calls the separation of life tasks. Adler outlines these 3 life tasks in a psychological theory as the work task, finding your purpose and contributing to society through meaningful work, whether it be your schoolwork, university, or even how much you take part in your occupation. The social task, building strong, positive relationships with others and fostering a sense of belonging with your friends. The love task, developing healthy, loving relationships that promote personal growth and connection with your loved ones. Consider the phrase, not my circus, not my monkeys, because that's exactly what Adler is trying to insinuate here. It's not being selfish to prioritize your own self, but rather intellectual. Focus on your own life tasks. They're yours to navigate through life with only. Lesson 3. Deny the desire for recognition. The task of life is not to seek recognition from others, but to find your own worth and value. Many of us have the desire to be valued and loved by others. People-pleasing is a common habit most of us find ourselves doing when socializing, but this oblivious tendency to be seen will lead us to act in a manner that caters to other people's expectations and not our own. In The Courage to be Disliked, it is asserted that the pursuit of recognition is seen as a form of self-sabotage because it binds you to public opinion. The fear of criticism is what bounds you to living an unfulfilled life, because Adler believed that being disliked is you exercising your right to living a free life, and your fear of being frowned upon will only shackle you to sucking up to the opinions of society. Though this lesson is a shorter and much easier one to explain, it is one that's overlooked the most and not taken into action. Your desire for recognition may easily turn into your loss of autonomy if not taken into account, because you become more focused and caring about others rather than the most important person in your life, yourself. To break free from this, find out who you truly are and not what others want you to be. Practice self-awareness and question your motivations. Focus on finding your true purpose rather than the purpose that would make the people around you the most proud of you. Only then can you truly embrace your autonomy and live authentically. Lesson 4. Live like you're dancing. Life is not linear. Many young adults are indoctrinated with the idea that life is a straight line. Go to university, work a high-paying job, get married, start a family, all that conventional expectation of a normal life. Any bumps or crevices with your supposed line of life are not normal, therefore you have a rocky environment around you and that you're unlucky. It's almost like pity is the end goal, but Ichiro Kishimi argues that life is a series of moments called now. We can live only in the here and now. Our lives exist only in moments. Life is not made up of lines. So focus on now, not later. The future is uncertain for every single individual being on Earth, and our time is limited. So think of life as not a race to be won, but a dance to be performed, free of outer judgment and shame. It is for me to mention now that although I say that life is not a competition, you can still have goals for yourself, but rather than finding the meaning in the goal you want to achieve, find the meaning in the journey, the people that you meet, the experiences that you'll go through, the love that you'll feel. You can't change the past, neither can you control the future, but you certainly can the present. In conclusion, to be happy and to be fulfilled, we need the courage to be disliked. We strengthen this courage through denying the past as the root reason for our troubles and admit our true goals, separating the tasks of others from ourselves and working on our own individual life tasks. Stop pursuing the need to be valued by others and instead value ourselves. Live through life like you're dancing. We are embarrassed to live freely, to talk in front of others, to exist, but we don't need to be. Your life isn't given its value by the opinions of others, but by the love and attention you give it. Adlerian psychology is a psychology of courage. Your unhappiness cannot be blamed on your past or your environment, and it isn't that you lack competence. You just lack courage. One might say you are lacking the courage to be happy.